Hi everyone, my name is Kayla and welcome back to Kay's Hidden Shelf where we talk about books. Today I'm going to be sharing with you a book haul. Now it's been a while since I've done one of these videos and I don't think I can showcase every book I've gotten since the last book haul video I've done. But quite recently, over the last 2 months, I'd say, I have acquired some new books. Some special editions have come in from Kickstarters I backed. So I thought it would be a good time since most of them came in quite recently within the last 2 weeks. It'd be a good time to share all of them with you. So let's go ahead and dive in. Like I said, there's special editions, there's used copies, some new ones. So let's just do this. The first one is Sonder and Mori from one of my favorite authors, K.E. Andrews. Now this one is in fantasy. She also writes poetry. She wrote one of my favorite books, Hills of Heather and Bone, and I did explore a bit more of her poetry through Let the Hurt Girls Speak, and boy did that pack a punch because I could not finish it all at once. I needed to break it up and I need to come back to it and finish it because it's quite emotional and I wanted to dip more into her poetry. This one is a bit shorter. It's a nice copy, and I have to say I'm surprised that the interior is printed in color on this paperback, but the idea of it is Sonder is the realization that each random passerby is living a life as vivid and complex as your own. Mori is the desire to capture a fleeting experience. Together it is the desire to capture the fleeting moments of the world around us. And I love that concept. So I definitely wanted to give this one a try. Now, because this is poetry, it will likely be a quicker read. However, I'm not gonna commit to that just because this could deal some emotional damage. It could make me think. It might be something I really want to savor. So I'm not going to rush this. I'm just going to enjoy it for what it is, but I am really looking forward to it. So let's look at the next book I got. Next is one of my most anticipated releases for this year, and I'm not going to save it to the end because it's too important. The Sundering Hours by Jacqueline Hagan. This is book 4 in the Riverfall Chronicles, and this series I have talked about before. It is amazing. If you have not heard of this series already or have not picked it up yet, you definitely should be giving this a try. Jacqueline Hagan's ability to immerse you in this world, invest in these characters, doubt everything you think you know, and be suspicious of everyone while still also loving everyone or completely hating them in the best way possible, then this is a series you want to check out. The Wickwire Watch is book 1, The Spider Key is book 2, and The Blue Flames is book 3. And this has a gaslamp fantasy setting, but it also blends in multiple other genres, including horror, thriller, and you name it. It's probably got a little bit in here, but despite all of the genre blending, it does it in a way where I actually didn't notice when I was reading. I actually had to go back and think about, wow, where did that come from? Is that a different genre? It was just so well blended together that I didn't realize it when I was initially reading the first book. And I am just so excited to see what happens with book 4 after all the events so far. This is a series that I love because not only does it have the character investment, I get lost in everything, the world, the characters, the story, the plot, all of it. There is so much in here, and that's not even touching on the themes that she delves into beautifully. So this is a series I adore. I'm looking forward to continuing, and I think my TBR might be a little bit interrupted for the foreseeable future as I dive into this. Next is one that I found at a used bookstore. This is one that I heard a lot about at the time it first released, and I am really curious to see what it's about because this author is one that I did read before. I loved the writing, and that is Lancelot by Giles Christian. And this is, I believe, a more Arthurian take. I really enjoyed the other book that he wrote. I can't remember the name. It's been that long. I do have it on my shelves. I think it's called The Raven or something along that line. It's more Viking inspired, and that is dark. very dark, but I really enjoyed it. And I'm really curious to see what Giles Christian has been up to since then. I've heard a lot of good things about this as well. So this is one that I'm really intrigued to dive into, to dive back into the author's writing and see what he's been up to, see if his writing still holds up the way I remember it. Keeping on the theme of used books, this one is actually one I have already read. However, I enjoyed it so much. I've been thinking about it since I read it and thinking I would like to come back to this as a reread at some point. Hopefully as a physical copy this time, because I did read it as an audiobook. I listened to it as an audiobook on the first time. So this one is Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. I loved the tone of this, the main characters. Each one was so unique, and there was one that just sticks in my mind to this date for how stubborn she was and how tenacious and inventive and the dedication that she had. So this is one I'd really like to come back to. It is that fairy tale inspired style of storytelling where it's a bit creepy, it's a bit dark, and it has a lot of magic and mystery to it, and just great look into these characters' lives and the circumstances that they're put into. So this is one I'd like to come back to, and finding it as a hardcover in the used bookstore for $6, that was an excellent find. So yes, looking forward to having this one on my shelf and coming back to it down the road. All right, for the next one, I want to give a little bit of background here. This one I got because it was on sale, and I'm saying that because mostly it makes me feel better, but I wanted to get a different format of this book. I originally bought this a few years ago as a mass market paperback. It's an anticipated, highly anticipated series for me. I've heard amazing things, and it's just one that a lot of people are reading, but I also have been struggling with chunky books put into mass market paperback due to the font size. I feel like I can't read as long as I'd like to when I'm diving into those formats. So I wanted to get a better format that would work for my reading. And like I said, this was on sale, and that is Empire of the Silence by Christopher Ruocchio. I ended up finding the hardcover on Amazon for cheaper than the trade paperback. And I might be kicking myself down the line because yes, I know there are more books in the series to come, but I figured if I was essentially going to be rebuying book one to set a standard of the format of book I would be continuing to buy, especially with them doing the reprints of the hard copies, I may as well go with the hardcover. So that is what I got. I'm really excited to delve into this series. Like I said, I've heard great things about it. It's been highly anticipated and mocking me on my shelf for years as I've tried to sit down and read the mass market, but I just don't think I can read mass market paperbacks, especially the chunky ones, as easily as I used to, and that saddens me a little bit. But Empire of Silence is now on the shelf, and hopefully I can dig into soon. Next is one that I actually read as an e-arc, but I enjoyed it so much I wanted to get it for my shelf, and that is A Reckless Courage by S.K. Putt. This is a Viking-inspired fantasy, and it follows Auslag and Orvar, formerly a priestess and Dranger. They give up their lives to live happily ever after, basically, and while the gods have other plans, this book made me very emotional, just had me tearing up within the first few chapters. There's emotional damage, beautiful insight into human experiences, in addition to some of the action we get and see with typical Viking stories. There's so much packed into this, and it's just a novella. The writing was just impressive. I think this is the kind of story I will probably come back to as well, which is again why I got a physical copy for this, because it's just so good. So I'm really excited to continue because this is a prequel novella in the series that S.K. Putt has written. Book one is Kinslayer. He did say that these styles are a little bit different. This one is more character driven, whereas Kinslayer is a bit more plot. However, with how much he has accomplished with this one, I'm really curious to start Kinslayer and to continue reading his writing from this point on because, yeah, this was just so good. So go get this if you haven't already. Next is another book that I have read and wanted a physical copy of. I have been saving my money for this one, and I just realized something on the back which I had no clue about, so we're going to talk about that in a second. But this is one that I read last year, I believe. I've been saving my nickels and dimes to get a physical copy down the road, and I ended up getting it on sale, which again makes me feel a little bit better. And that is Bard City Blues by Nathaniel Webb. This is a cozy fantasy following a bard. It packs all of the elements you would hope to find in cozy fantasy. Think of Legends and Lattes. This is what I think of too. It has found family. You have a main character who has essentially left her home life in order to pursue a career as a bard in the Musicians Guild. There is so much to this, and of course things don't go as planned. She has to think on her feet, live on the go because, well, she doesn't really have a home anymore. She's wandering into this city with all of her hopes and dreams resting on her instrument and what's left in her coin purse and her absolute dedication and love for music. So this is incredibly endearing. You have also just some quirky side characters, a gelatinous cube that is probably going to be the favorite character for many readers. You've got all of the classic fantasy elements in here as well in terms of creatures, orcs, elves, dwarves, you name it. There is a ton of fantasy fun in here, and you have a little slice of romance, which I know I don't typically read romance, but this was fun. It didn't feel forced. It felt natural. The relationship has a believable build up to it, which I don't mind. I don't mind romance in books so long as it feels believable, it feels genuine, rather than shock value or some of the other romance heavy tropes that you would find in more smutty books, those kind of things, or dramatic. I prefer genuine relationships, and this has a bunch of them. Absolutely a must read. And the thing that I noticed on the back, which I didn't realize, and I am just flabbergasted and humbled, is my quote from the review is on the back cover. And that just makes my day. Thank you so much, Nathaniel. So yes, this is one that I'm happy to have on the shelves, and another one to reread on a rainy day. So I was just flipping through because, like I said, I read this as an ARC, and it didn't have all of the features it seems that it has now, but it does look like this is full of illustrations as well. And there's so much detail and art put into this. So yes, I don't know about the e-copy, the ebook, but the paperback definitely has some artwork included with it as well. Speaking of Legends and Lattes, my Kickstarter edition from Wraithmark came in. Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldry. This is a beautiful edition. I'll try and show you some images or footage here because it's stunning what they did with this. Now, my copy did come with a bit of damage. There was some issues in shipping. However, Wraithmark has been phenomenal. They replied very quickly to my concerns, my requests for upgrades to international shipping because the box kind of didn't make it very well and there was no bubble wrap. So they assured me that they are investigating because this has happened to me before. They were very apologetic and they offered me a replacement, even though the damage to this copy is very minimal. They were just fantastic to work with, honestly, with their customer service. And they were the previous time that I had issues with shipping as well. So they are investigating. They are trying to improve international shipping for their Kickstarters, but this is just a beautiful copy. They really came through with this one, and I love the style of the naked hardback because it's textured as well. But yes, I love cozy fantasy, I'm finding, and Legends and Lattes is one that I adored, so I wanted to back the Kickstarter for this one, and I'm so glad that I did. Last but not least is another special edition, and this is the Advent of Winter of Fantasy Anthology. This is a collection of short stories from a variety of different authors, as you can see, all self-published. Many of these authors are ones that I've read books from before and loved, and others are ones that I've been able to discover, and now I want to read more from them. That being said, I did back this Kickstarter that was organized, put together, and beautifully done by Dom at Diminish Books. He did a phenomenal job with this project, and a huge kudos to the authors as well for their stories. When he set up this Kickstarter and I was able to back it, I got an ebook copy of the stories as well. And being able to read a short story a day in December was absolutely lovely, but time is also its worst or least in December with the holidays. And I didn't end up finishing it. I did think about going back, but by that time the seasons had turned, and well, this entire anthology is winter themed, and I figured, you know what, I will come back to this maybe on colder days, or I'll continue when my paperback copy comes in, and it arrived. So I will probably be dipping back into this pretty soon as maybe colder days come in fall. Yeah, I'm just excited to dive back into this, guys. It's a beautiful edition. They did a phenomenal job. I'll show you footage here. The stories I did manage to read were all unique, all took the theme of winter and put their own spin on it. Some were adventurous, some were heartfelt, some were eerie. It was just a beautiful blend of all different kinds of tones, and seeing everyone's take on the theme of winter was really captivating. So yes, I will be continuing this, but until then, I am so thrilled with this. I also figured it was probably the only way I was going to get signatures from all these different kinds of authors, as every single author provided their signature for the signed page, which is just incredible when you try and think of the logistics of how to get that to happen. So yes, one of my favorite copies, I think, on my shelves to date. And that is everything for this book haul. There's quite a few here, but some of them I've already read, like I said, and I've just been wanting to get physical copies for on my shelves to reread. And I'm really lucky to have been able to get these because special editions I know are expensive. I have quite a few of them, but I don't often do book hauls, especially within this year, because I've been trying to be better about reducing what I buy in physical format. I also get sent a lot of review copies, which I wholly appreciate, and I try to prioritize those, but I'm also trying to find a balance with reading review copies and my own personal TBR a little bit better this year, which it has. And on top of that, I've got so many unread books that I'd like to read, so I'm trying to balance it all. It's probably not going to work because it's usually all chaotic in the end anyway. However, it's nice to limit, as I've found, limit my buying because I feel less anxious. I don't know about all of you, but the more unread books I have on my shelves, the more anxiety I feel, which is why I continue to try and read at a steady pace as well. Plus, the stories are waiting. They're calling to me from off the shelves, and I'm so curious to see all of the adventures that are waiting for me. In the meantime, what did you think of the haul? Are there any books that you recommend I should start with first? Any that ended up making it to your TBR? Leave your comments down below. I always love hearing from you. As always, thank you so much for watching, and take care of yourselves.